Hello everybody. In this video I'm going to show you how to create some web forms on your website such that they can do create, read, update, and delete, and they will actually store data into your own custom tables as opposed to the WordPress database itself. So you can do back-end access of your own custom table data if you want to. So in order to do that, we're going to use Elementor and Elementor Pro plugins. And we're also going to use this child theme configurator plugin. What this allows us to do is take any WordPress theme for the most part and make a child theme of it. And then we're going to be editing the functions.php file. And we'll show you how to do all of that in this handy dandy little document here, which is available in the description down below. There's a link to a Google Drive where you can get to this file. So again, we're going to be able to make a page that looks like this, and so here it is in action. We've got add leagues. Maybe we want to put in some league name, if you will, and then I made a select box here. That'll be a tennis, and that's the weird name of the league, and we hit add, and it will then update this down here. It also has the update capabilities, so we can come in here and let's click on this first one. And it'll bring up a page that looks like this. So now we can edit this thing, and we will make it number 6, and we'll leave it as basketball, and we'll hit save. And upon doing that, it'll go out and refresh the page. And now its first league is 6 instead of 1. And if we want to get rid of this altogether, we just simply click on that row, and it will blow away that row, repaint the page, and there you go. All of this is also being set up such that it works with the current user ID of the person who's logged in. So we are storing in our table the user ID such that we can control it in a members type website thing where the members can see their own information, etc. So without further ado, let's get into the fun. So we need these two plugins, so go ahead and get those. And once you do that, under settings and permalink from in WordPress, go down and make sure that this is set to post name. And then we're going to use this child theme creator to make a child theme. And I'm using the hello theme on this website here. It's the theme that I'm using. And once you do that, the first thing we're going to do is the first edit we're going to do is we're going to go from the WordPress editor on the left side. We're going to go to appearance and then theme file editor. And then under theme functions, we're going to pick functions.php, and you want to put in this code right here. So what this allows us to do is it's using some API functions that are built into Elementor and allows us to create a new record in the system. So when the add button is hit, it's going to come in here, and the forms that we have, this is the add league one. We also will be building one for add player. So this one's named add league and this is named add player. Very creative in my naming scheme. So here, since it's the add league one, it will run this if conditional. And if it was the add player one, it'll run this. I've put some error log information in here for debugging purposes, and this information will show up in your PHP log file. When all things are working, you can of course get rid of these lines here, but it just helps to make sure things are working. So that's the first edit we're going to be doing. We'll be going into appearance and theme file editor and then theme functions, and you want to edit the functions.php and just paste this in at the bottom of that file. We're also going to be creating a couple of tables here, one called PHP leagues, and we're going to have another one called PHP players, and those will go into your database here, PHP leagues, PHP players here, and you can see the field types of information that we have in there. So with the PHP league one, I've got a league ID. That's the unique identifier for the table, the primary key. It auto increments for you. We have a field in there called user ID here. And I set the type here to be big int 20, which matches the WordPress user ID character or variable type, database field type, sorry, such that we can use that to match and grab the current user ID and then search in our table to make sure that we're getting the information for the current user ID who's logged in. Then we have a league name. It's just a varchar 100 and sport varchar 100. So that's the setup of the PHP leagues table. Now we're going to create we're going to come back to this my DB files PHP file here in a second. So in your directory, I have a directory called my stuff that I created in my root of my website. In there is where I'm going to have these 4 files. There is a create league PHP, and there's the text for that. We'll come back to that. Read leagues, and then update league, and update and delete league. So we got delete, update, read, and create. So because we were going to be building a site that lets us do CRUD, create, read, update, and delete. But to do all of that in the very root directory of your website, we're going to create this file here called my DB file. And it basically allows us to connect into the database such that we can get to our table. And here we're using localhost and root. And the site is called test site. And that matches out here in my PHP information that we're looking at here for this WordPress site that we're working with. So we're going to have that file right there. So go ahead and create that, drop that out in your root directory. Then you're going to want to create one called create leagues, and this is the text for it that you want to have. And what it's going to be doing is, first thing it does is it includes that my DB file PHP, so it can make the connection to the database right down here, con leagues equal, and then it's going to do the query based on the SQL statement we generated here. Here we grab the league name from the form, the sport, the user ID, that's a hidden field, and we put that into the database table like this. And then we got to read one. We're going to create this file here exactly as it is, a whole bunch of stuff in there. We'll come back to that. Update and delete. So if you want to, you can pause the video, make these files yourself, and then I will go through the form and talk about how it actually interacts with it. So you can pause this, build those files, and then when you come back, we'll go into WordPress and we'll click Add Page, and we'll call it Add League. And then we click on the Edit with Elementor, click on Publish. When the page comes up, down at the bottom of the editor in Elementor, we'll come in here and we'll say Edit this thing with Elementor so you can see it, what I'm seeing. Takes a second. So you want to go down here to the settings thing. That's what I'm showing here. Click on that, and under settings, hide titles. I just think that looks better. And then go back to the top to the little grid icon, this thing up here, which brings up all these. And you're going to drag a heading widget over to the drag here location. So over here, we're going to take a heading thing and drag it here. And this is for the add league element up here, and we'll change the text nothing to add league. That puts that in there. And then the next thing we're going to do is we're going to drag in this form. So you're going to drag in a form widget into the drag widget here area. And when it comes up first, it has name, and I think it's email, and then message. First thing we want to do is we want to name the league, name this form add league. So we're going to put that in here. And then I got rid of the email and the message, I believe, are the default fields, and I put in sport and user, and we'll go through those steps down here. So we keep the name field there, but we change its ID to name, and how you do that is you click on content, the name is still here, but then when we go to the advanced setting for that name field, click on advanced, you want to change the ID here to name, and then that'll make sure that its field ID is name, and that is what we're going to use in those PHP files you saw up above. We then, here's what it says, we remove the email and message fields, and we add in a sport select field. We name it sport. So we come in here, and this is a sport. Type is select, label is sport, and we added in basketball, football, tennis, etc. And when we go over to the advanced button, that's where we give it its name of sport, and we want to make sure that the ID equals sport. Then we're going to add a user hidden field. And now we're going to add a hidden field. I just called it user. And type is hidden, label is user. You won't see the label. It's kind of inconsequential. Under advanced, we want to set this to user info and then pick ID. And we're going to name this the league underscore user underscore ID, because this is the field we're going to grab in those PHP files when we submit the form. And then the going to drag another heading widget for current league. So what we're building now is we just built the header, and then we built this form, and now we got this heading thing here called current leagues that's sitting right here. That's what we're doing now. And right here, that was this section. And then moving forward, the last thing we're going to do is we're going to drag in an HTML element, and that is used to dynamically generate this content here on the page. And that information looks like this. So we've got this jQuery element we're going to add in here, the JavaScript for that. It's because we're going to need that in order to dynamically update the page without reloading it. And we have on submit and on ready. So on submit is when the button is pressed, and on ready is when the page loads. And it's going to do these couple of things here. So if there's an ID, and what that means is if we come in here and click on edit, this URL up here will have an ID in it. And when that happens, we have to call something different to show it looking like this, as opposed to if we just go back to when it looked normal, we just want to show it as a table. So that is taken care of in this section here. And then last but not least, it's going to take the data that it gets back, and it's going to do the inner HTML, and that's going to be the data that we got back from the function that was called, and that will replace the table that's there that we just gave it an ID of records. And initially there's nothing in it other than the heading, and you'll see that when we go back through these PHP files here. So let's just do that now. So we're calling this read function initially. That's what happens when the page loads. It calls read, and I'm going to get rid of these couple of items here so you can see what it would look like from the get-go. It will look like this, where it just has the headings to the table and there's no content in it. And that is what's happening inside of this read leagues PHP. So we have get the database connection information we want, add these couple of things in here. Here's where we're getting the current user ID of whoever's logged in, because we're going to need that later on. These next two lines here, I just echo things out to the PHP error log file. It's just a easy way to debug things is with print statements, and you can check your log file to make sure that you're actually getting here. Then we do the select statement where we select everything from PHP leagues where the user ID equals, and there's that current user ID. So if somebody's not logged in and they try to get to this page, ideally you'll have this page controlled on your site with some plugin that controls member content. So they would only be able to see this page if you were logged into your site. So we get the results from that. And again, we have a debugging thing where I'm echoing out the log, and you can again get rid of this line here. You don't need to see that. And then here we are basically building that top of that table. And this is what will show up if there's nothing in this while loop here that goes all the way down to the bottom. If there's nothing there, then all it's going to show is that heading. If it does find results, it will put the information in using this. And if you're familiar with HTML, this should look pretty familiar to you. Again, this file is something you can just copy and paste and drop in to your site and try it. And that is what generates this information, which is the read information. Now, when we put something in here, and we're going to say first league, and we're going to make it tennis, when I click on add, it's going to call the create information here. And how it's doing that was from up here in this functions PHP. It says, okay, are we in the add league page? Yes, we are. Or form, sorry, I should say form. Again, here's a little hi there thing that I've turned off in the version you're seeing here. If not, it would say hi there at the top of this thing. And we put this code in here, and what it does is it goes off and calls our create league information, comes back, and that's what we have. When this gets called, that's what ends up showing up, puts the data into the database, and then once it comes back, it does the repainting of the page, and you'll see the data down here. So that's what's doing all that. And then the last two files that we have are the update and the delete. When you click on update, which is in this page here under read, so if we click on find the section, here's delete, here's update. So if we pick on update, we pick on update from the other one. Find the section here. Update, delete. It's going to call update PHP, add league, delete league, add league. Oh, add league with the ID. That's what we're doing. So we're calling the same page. When we click on update, we call the same page, and here's that ID that we're adding to it with the row that we're on. And that's what then makes that view change. When I click on this here, it makes this row change to a form, if you will, such that you can change these things to whatever you want to have it. And then we hit save. And if you want to change this to basketball, sure, do that. Hit save. Then goes out, repaints the page, and now it's basketball and that instead of tennis. And then the last thing that it does is if we click on the delete one, it calls delete stuff PHP, passing in that ID, and it uses that to delete the item from the database based on what we've passed in. So go ahead and give this a whirl. It may have seemed a little crash course to it, but all the information's here. Everything that I've done in this video is pretty much step by step right through here. If there are issues with it, please, of course, give me comments such that I can edit it so everybody can benefit. So that's basically what we did thus far. Went back, we added a league, see that it updates it, try the update link, the delete link. Now, if you'd like to do this on other forms, maybe like you want to do an add player, well, you can keep going in this document here, and we show how we make an add players PHP table, and then we add a page for the player. We run through the same steps. We put different fields on here, call it name, and then we're doing the hidden thing, and it's the user ID. In this case, we called it WP ID because in my database for leagues, I have it as user ID, and of course player, I was creative and changed that to WP ID. So just make your fields match what you have in your database, and everything should work just fine. And then last but not least, the link to the document that's out there. So yeah, that should do it. Any questions, comments, concerns, give me a holler. Thanks.